you so much, Jess. Welcome, everyone. Very happy to be here sharing with you all. I'm Gabriela Carrasco. I am consultant for Ashoka U in Latin America, developing different programs with Ashoka and the offices in Mexico, the Andean region, Chile, Brazil, and from there helping universities install different programs and policies around social innovation and change making. So very, very excited to be here and share a little bit of what we've been doing. With me, it's Waldo Soto. I don't know, Waldo, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, hello everyone. Good night. Greetings from Berlin. Yeah, with Gabriela, we have been working together since 10 years almost in the field of social innovation for universities in Latin America mainly. We are close to Ashoka since 5-6 years ago also. And yeah, quite excited of being here. Since the last 2-3 years, we started a journey together of applying social innovation to the field of climate action. And today we want to present you a bit of this journey and what's kind of the output so far. So I'm quite excited to be with all of you here. And I hope you're doing well. You're not that tired after a long day. So yeah, thank you all for joining us also.
Great. So maybe before starting and actually presenting you what we brought and talking about climate change and social innovation, we wanted to make a quick check-in to see just to bring your voice into this conversation. And so if everyone can just answer how they get here, how they come. Sorry, sometimes the translation is very literal. So if you get confused, just you can ask. So if everyone can turn on their mics just for 1 second and share in one word how you get here.
How you get here, how you feel. Yeah, any answer. It's okay. Right. It's okay. You can also text it in the chat also.
In the chat if you want
to share. For sharing.
And maybe since we are not that much, you can say your name and where you're coming from too.
Yeah, would be great.
Hi everyone, my name is Omar. I'm from McGill University in Montreal, Canada. I did not get the question about how are we getting here.
How are you entering here? Like
feeling. Oh, I'm feeling. Yeah. I'm feeling good. It's been a very productive day so far.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's snowing outside.
Is it the last session for you today?
I have one more.
One more.
It's a community session, I think.
Yeah, good. Nice.
Thank you.
I love the backgrounds.
I'll go quickly. I'm Laura. I'm in New Orleans. It's not snowing. I went for a beautiful walk, and I feel tired but hopeful. I'm glad to see a climate change theme in the Ashoka U Exchange presentation. So that's why I'm here. Specific topic I care about.
Nice.
I'm Marissa Getz. I'm at Utah Valley University. It's about an hour south of Salt Lake in Utah. And I am feeling, yeah, like a little sleepy, but happy to talk about climate change within social innovation.
Awesome. Anyone else wants to share?
I'm Mike. I'm in Miami, Florida, and I'm here because I'm really concerned about climate change, and it's a big part of what I teach about as an educator.
Nice, thank you.
I can jump in. I think if I already introduced myself, I'm Jess. I'm calling from Canada, but I am leading the development of a Ashoka U's climate strategy. So excited to hear about Gabby's and Waldo's work.
Anyone else that wants to introduce themselves?
Hi, Miguel Perez. I work in the University of Aysén in Chilean Patagonia.
Thank you for being here. Okay, so if anyone else wants to present themselves, the chat is always open. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We have a presentation and some questions we are having ourselves and bringing to this space to talk with you all. Very excited to share our work. Waldo and I are both co-founders of 2811, a platform for social change in Latin America. I am based in New York. I did my master's degree in social innovation at NYU. So holding multiple hats at the same time, while also consulting for Ashoka in Latin America, developing programs for universities. So our purpose as 2811 is to promote a regenerative development in different places. We started in South America because it makes sense. We're both Chilean, and we started our professional lives there, but also in the rest of Latin America. And we have been experiencing the importance of collaboration and of sharing in this space. So we've been working in 2011 for around 4 years now, helping almost 60 universities in Latin America to develop different programs around this. And today we're going to talk about one in a specific that we're going to share with you later. Within 2811, we have 3 main areas of transformation. One is climate action, and it's the one we're going to share today. The other one is social change, from where we develop different methodologies around social innovation and social entrepreneurship for different stakeholders. And the last one, most recently, we have been working on impact investing, seeing how the financial and the economic sector are essential for bringing or for developing a new economy. So impact investing is also now one of the topics we are moving forward in Latin America. So today we're going to talk about, I don't know whether you can move them. Yeah. So today we bring the topic of social innovation in higher education, which I guess you have been talking a lot about, but with a specific focus on climate change and how universities need to tackle that issue. So I'll hand it to you, Waldo, to continue with this part.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, what we are sharing now is kind of some hypotheses we started gathering through a journey we started 3 years ago in applying social innovation to the concrete challenge of climate change. So as a sort of like a set of hypotheses, we have more questions still than answers, as usual in this sector. So we really appreciate that at the end, and we would like to have a conversation for you about this, to raise some more questions, or also to test some of our assumptions about kind of the solution, not solution, nothing close to that, or about the ideas we have to ignite the social innovation for climate action from universities. So just as a quick introduction to the involvement of universities and in social innovations, a group of researchers from TU Dortmund here in Germany, from the project Social Innovation Drive, is kind of a really kind of big European project for supporting the research in this field. And they start asking to innovations from all over the world about what kind of organizations were involved in the development of the innovation. And surprisingly for us, right, because I think typically in the exchange we are meeting people from like really close to the field of social innovation in universities. So surprisingly for us, just in the 15% of the cases, universities were involved in the development of the social innovation. So at the end, if we start like asking who is involved like in the emergence of social innovations, universities are not kind of the main organization. So, I mean, we have a role and we have the hypothesis here, I mean, the idea here is we have still a lot of space for improvement, or for at least to get more involved. So also like entering to the topic, we start also asking to some universities what are kind of the benefits, right, of incorporating social innovation to the work they're doing. And this is also a result of the certificate we have from Ashoka U, Ashoka Commons, LATAM, for Latin American universities. And they start like summarizing the benefits in a way of like pointing out the three main, in a way, missions from the university. So for instance, in research, we have that social innovation in some cases ignites a more interdisciplinary approach to the research. Then, for instance, in teaching, we have also more interdisciplinary approach, but also here, maybe this is not the best translation, but we have here that social innovation sometimes is kind of improving the approach that some universities have with the communities, of just kind of giving them resources or just applying knowledge to the community issues. And so what social innovation is doing there is kind of activating this idea of co-creating or co-producing, right, the solutions with the community, with the affected community. And then in the third mission, in a way, extension, we have also that, for instance, yeah, the university kind of, in some cases, improves the link it has with the ecosystem around one specific social or ecological problem. Meaning that in some cases the university, through social innovation, gets involved in kind of regional or national boards for solving one specific issue, for instance. So just entering to the topic. And then, so in a way, observing this, right, this kind of possibility that social innovation is given to the universities. And then also having this concern that maybe there is still space for improvement of how the universities get involved, right, on the emergence or the creation of social innovations, right? We start having some conversations with universities about what about if we created social change laboratories or living labs. They have different names. We're gonna see one specific approach today. So what about if we created social labs, social innovation labs, and we apply this kind of set of methodologies to the concrete challenge of climate change, right? Climate action, climate mitigation, or climate adaptation. But then, so the first question, right, will be, what is a social innovation lab, right? So we have one specific framework here. This is, yeah, maybe it's not the best design. I think some of you reviewed this in the past because I think it's quite well known. Frances Wesley summarized in this way kind of the theoretical framework behind a social change lab, I think it's quite interesting because sometimes we see in the universities, I would like to make the point with one corner here. Yeah, for instance, we see that we observe inside the social labs or social change labs the expertise of the capacities of facilitation, right? So we have coaches, we have mentors, and so on, right? Some of them typically really close to the art of hosting methodologies, but this comes from the group therapy. I mean, at least in this kind of summary, right? And this is coming from also an history of research in that specific field. So I think it's quite interesting for some of you that are kind of close to the idea of having social labs or social innovation labs, is also considering kind of the path behind each specific tool that we are using today in the social labs. And it's a really nice, it's a kind of, yeah, really easy to read paper also. So here you can see the reference. So then that was the first question, right? So how we summarize in a way what a social innovation lab is. I don't know, Gabi, if you would like to comment something here. And then we created this social innovation lab with this purpose, right? Create interdisciplinary and intersectoral work places in universities in America, the entire continent. We mean Europe and Africa, right? So working working also with different kind of units inside the same universities, we could create solutions, co-create solutions rather with communities for the climate crisis.
Yes, I think one important thing here is that normally climate change within universities is being tackled or studied or researched from specific spaces or schools within universities, and has not been tackled as a systemic problem as it is. So universities have been delegating biology schools, engineering schools, or others to try to understand what climate change is and which are the policies or mechanisms that we need to adapt and to mitigate to climate change. And we wanted to bring a new way of thinking about it. What if we brought together different expertises within the university, students, community, and everyone to think about climate change as a systemic issue rather than isolating in different departmental parts of the universities. So this is the first dream, I think, or the first purpose. And we brought this to first 10 universities in Latin America to start thinking about this.
So the first pilot to test this idea, right, is happening, it just started actually this January with 13 different universities from Spain, Italy, France, Brazil, Mexico, and Colombia. And we launched this 1 month ago, actually, in Manizales in Colombia, where 5 universities there, they created like a consortium specifically for Colombia, focusing the ClimateLab in Colombia for the challenges, the climate change challenges in the coffee production cluster. So it was quite interesting also to focus the lab, right? The idea of social innovation lab for climate change, but also now linking with this theory, with this theory of this approach of a kind of economic cluster, and as a really important one, as you may know, for Colombia as the coffee production one. The second pilot, right, where we have also applied a project we just applied this project the last February. With also here with the Universidad de Aysén, the public university of the Chilean Patagonia, and here from the universities Aide and also McGill. And we apply a new project together, taking the same idea, but this time considering two kind of unique, like, or at least new ideas compared to the last one. One is, in this case, we created a consortium for igniting the South-to-South collaboration, right? So we took universities in East Africa, Uganda, Kenya, and also we consider universities in Colombia and Chile, right? Always having universities from Europe, because we are doing this, at least these two projects with an European funding. And then we narrowed down the project to urban issues. So we took universities from the main cities, but also universities from secondary cities. And we narrowed down the entire project to the urban field. And at the end, this last project is called Urban Climate Action Labs, right? So, and we took the same idea that before, but then we apply to this South-to-South collaboration idea and also to the urban field, right? So this is the second test, in a way, or second experiment.
Yeah, and there, so if first we were testing how different parts of the university could come together to develop one lab together to tackle this complex issue. Then we had like a second level of complexity, bringing universities together from different cultures, from different backgrounds, to work together to create like a laboratory of laboratories. So it's these projects and these consortiums are a way of practicing the bringing together different stakeholders to work together towards a specific issue. So this makes sense in understanding, for example, what Waldo was saying about how in Colombia we're working with 5 different universities that are in the same axis of production and in the same, sharing the same valley and the same cities, to develop together the labs and to develop together the understanding of a social innovation laboratory for climate action, which we think it's very important because it's not enough for universities to be collaborating within, but we need universities collaborating with other stakeholders to actually tackle this issue as it is. So just to hear other voices, if there's anyone who wants to share, why do you think it's in these kinds of cases and in specific for climate change, if you have had any experience with working within the university with other stakeholders or out the university with other organizations or in specific universities? I don't know if anyone has a specific example or experience working on climate change. Laura?
I'm just going to pop up and congratulate you on bringing together a diverse group of universities for these South-South collaborations in urban South and the climate change. From an experience of Tulane University, we're in an oil and gas state, and it's nearly impossible to have the administration speak about climate change. So you'll have academics within disciplines like environmental sciences, environmental health. So it's actually much worse than just that there are silos. There's actually institutional interests. Have you encountered that in forming these labs at all? Meaning, we're in a gas state, a lot of our alum are involved and tied up in the oil and gas industry through some ways or another. So there's been a real hesitancy to get anyone within the university as a whole at a leadership level to speak, to support divestment or to support really anything, frankly. just sharing one small experience here. How did you do it?
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Laura. I was waiting to see if Waldo wanted to jump in, but I was just thinking how we have had to change a little bit the focus towards adaptation instead of mitigation in many of these conversations. And I don't know if everyone is familiar with that distinction, but in some universities or in some countries, even or in funds, if you see funding for this kind of activities, many times you see that the funding is more related with adaptation, with adapting to the consequences of climate change rather than to mitigating it. And that has to do with what you were saying. So I think that is a way of starting conversations within universities and starting to talk about it. Of course, it's not enough, but I think it's a way that we have found for everyone to chip in into this kind of projects.
But also we learn, I think we learn a lot from the experience of the Ashoka certificate for universities, the Changemaker Campus, right? We learn a lot of that from that. So we are setting at the beginning Changemaker leader teams for climate actions inside universities. And we took them from any kind of faculty. Sometimes they're coming from, like, it's an authority, or sometimes a professor, is a researcher. And with them, we start now advancing more, like institutionally speaking, taking more people and getting them involved in the project. So we learned a lot of that experience. And actually now at least in the first consortium we have, in this month, we are in the phase of assessing this Changemaker leader team, right, for climate action. So it's just kind of the same strategy that Ashoka is promoting always with the Changemaker Campus, right? Of having one leader, a core team, and then spreading kind of the energy for the others. And we are doing that. And I mean, for me, this is kind of a set of hypotheses still. I think this can work, right? But let's see. Just to mention also, like, what are kind of the main results, right, we're expecting with this project, right? Is one, having a better kind of challenge matching, because it's really a pity, it's really sometimes really annoying to see how universities are researching like in a parallel world to the challenges and the problems of the closest community. We are putting a lot of effort on doing this match at the beginning of the project, right? So we are studying kind of the papers, also the main research centers of each university, and then matching this also with the challenges of the community that is kind of close to the university. Then we have this capacity building, right? So we are teaching, or we are learning together with the professors about climate action, different kind of risk associated to that. Also, just transitions. That's a key topic today for economically speaking, right? So it's not just about like kind of shutting down an entire industry. It's about making the transition, right? So that it makes sense also it can make sense for any kind of industry. So I think that maybe that's valuable for the oil issue, maybe there. And then really localizing the climate labs, right? It's not, I mean, in the same way that the economy is really embedded in the territories, right? The climate action has to be. And that's because we are making really the effort of localizing the climate labs with 5 universities in the coffee production zone in Colombia. narrowed down the ClimateLab in Mexico to the avocado industry in Guadalajara, together also with the Tech of Monterrey. And then doing the same exercise for the 3 universities in Brazil. In Brazil, we have a challenge anyway, because we took one university from the northeast. We took one university from Porto Alegre, PUC Rio Grande do Sul, and then we took a university far to the north from Brazil, from the central of Brazil, Universidad de Paraná. But anyway, they're kind of arriving to a really kind of simple and clear challenge to solve together. Then, as a summary, right, of what we are doing, of what was the idea behind, as we share, we are doing a bit of team preparation at the beginning. Then this is kind of the U theory, right? We took a lot of the Professor Charmer is doing. We designed the climate labs together with the university. We also are, as said, we are setting an online accelerator program. And then we are creating solutions with each laboratory in a way also of testing the capacities of the laboratory team of co-creating solutions with the community, right? So not just with the aim of the goal or the goal of kind of trying to solve one specific issue, but rather also with the idea of testing the capacities of the laboratory. And then the idea, as Gabriela said, is to kind of start shaping like a laboratory of laboratories, right? So the idea is to form like a Latin American climate change applied research network for climate action, and then start like having the same with the African countries, with European countries, and so on. Like, as you may like already realize, right? Kind of the core kind of set of knowledge that we are putting together here is a bit of social innovation, right? So we took a lot of the social economy theory, social entrepreneurship also. We are also taking the idea of living labs. We had the opportunity of, we were quite lucky actually of having in this project the University of Lorraine in France. They have a good research unit for living labs project, and they research living labs on municipalities, central governments, also national governments, universities, so they are contributing with that. And also we have kind of the field of the climate change applied research. This is kind of also a bit of the methodology we are using here. We also, now in Manizales, we budget 8,000 euros for compensate at least all the travel emissions we have to do for the project. So this also was interesting, not just for kind of reducing the footprint, right? The project footprint was interesting also for kind of see the professors and the authorities of the universities working together in a garden. So it was also interesting to share like a different kind of knowledge among them, and also to having like really local and really practical conversations. Was also interesting in that sense, not just in the idea of like this technical idea of, okay, we have to do something with our footprint, which is something that we have to do anyway, but also of this idea of seeing the professors and the participants in a different setting in a way, right? As a way of team building a bit.
Yeah, I think one important thing to mention, I don't know if it was clear, is that we are just starting with this first consortium of universities that are working in this project. So with the universities from Colombia, Mexico, Brazil, and Europe, we just started this January the program, and we met in Colombia, all the professors, at the beginning of March, just before the isolation brought us all back to our countries. So, so this is just starting, and everything that we presented are based on what we've learned in this journey of working with universities for a while now, but are also, as Waldo says, assumptions. And most of these things are assumptions that we think with great hope that are going to work, but we are testing them. So we are going to be working on that testing for the next 3 years with one of these groups. And if the other project comes through with the funding, we will be doing that for the next 3 years also with that South to South collaboration program that is also very important for us, because I don't know how to maybe bring this issue, but in Latin America and in the global South, it is almost super difficult to collaborate with other regions of the global South. Normally, professors from universities in Latin America want to work with professors from universities in the US, or want to work with professors from universities in Europe, but it's difficult to create the connections between professors in Africa and professors in South America, for example. So one of the things we worked very hard in last year was starting to make these connections between, for example, a university in the Patagonia in Chile, that I don't know if everyone knows where the Patagonia is, but the very, very south of Chile. Miguel can let you know more about that, but it's very far. Connecting a university from the Patagonia in Chile to one little town in central Uganda is something that I think it's very, very rarely done. So, and connecting them in a global issue that is climate change, I think it's really important right now. From Chile, from Colombia, we can learn probably a lot more of what Uganda and Kenya are doing, rather than what other countries in the global north are doing. So that's part of what we're trying to bring to this project, not only labs within, but labs that are mindful of the world and of the world's issue. So just to open a little bit the conversation, we want to know how your organizations are doing it to tackle climate change from the university. Are there any programs? Are there any awareness programs for students? Are there any investigation resources or research resources? How have you been doing it? It's not easy out there. So we just want to hear how you've been doing and how maybe we can create synergies between this initiative and what you are doing within your universities.
I guess I'll jump in. I'm with Miami-Dade College and Earth Ethics Institute. And so we offer professional development for faculty at the college in all the different disciplines, whether it's English, math, science, art, whatever it happens to be. So we offer professional development on Earth literacy and sustainability education. And through that, we've developed what we call the Global Sustainability and Earth Literacy Studies Network, where all these different faculty are embedding this type of education into their classes, essentially. And so we've kind of based this around the Earth Charter, but now we're also focusing on the UN Sustainable Development Goals as well. But a big part of that is climate change awareness and bringing that to the students. And through our change-making efforts at the college, hopefully we're also empowering the students to feel like they can at least get involved on a local level. And many of them have, attending the different climate strikes and things of that nature.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. I have one question. Is there any like interest from specific schools in the college that send their professors to these trainings, or is it's diverse, the kind of the type of professors that come to these trainings on climate change?
You know, actually, it's interesting because it's more about the professors. They're self-selecting. The people who are interested in the topics and the content will come to us. I've actually had the experience where we've brought in like local climate advocacy groups, and a certain chair of our science department wasn't interested because he said it was advocacy, not science. And I'm like, yeah, but they're advocating for science. But I guess he didn't get the point.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
I can weigh in if you would like. I was on the phone call and I've transferred to video. My name is Craig Dunn. I'm at Western Washington University here in Bellingham, Washington. And we have a College of the Environment that's been around now they're celebrating 50 years this year. I think we've been very intentional about not like saying, okay, that's where we're going to do climate change. I think the best change we made as a university is we have an Office of Sustainability, and it used to be in Business and Financial Affairs, which is one of 5 divisions. And now we moved it to Academic Affairs. And it really gave it a lot more legitimacy, because now that division houses all of our efforts, well, not all of them, but the majority of our efforts around what we now refer to as climate crisis. We've abandoned talking about climate change and changed the narrative to climate crisis. Within the last 6 months, the students, I give them a huge deal of credit for this, managed to pressure the foundation to actually shift investment firms. So the relatively modest $100 million that we have is now more than 50% invested in environmental social governance. That's another change we made in narrative. We don't talk about divestment. We talk about, which is a negative screen. We talk about environmental social governance, which is a positive screen. And I'll just say that I'm director of a business and sustainability combined major that has connections with Huxley College of the Environment, the College of Business and Economics, and we have an Institute for Energy Studies as well. So breaking those silos structurally in universities has been challenging, but fairly effective.
Thank you. Super interesting how universities are, I hadn't heard about a positive way of talking about divesting yet. So that is very, very interesting to understand and to learn about. Thank you.
Well, I'll just say that I was at San Diego State University, obviously in San Diego, California, for 15 years. And I was director of our Corporate Governance Institute. And it was there that I really learned about the language that we might use. And environmental social governance, ESG investing, is something that actually is much more palatable and actually, I think, much more positively impactful in terms of a narrative around investing.
Yeah, super interesting. Thank you. I don't know if anyone else would like to share if they're doing something within the university around climate change or how they're thinking about it.
Hi, so I can talk a little bit about what we're doing here at McGill. One thing that sort of is fascinating is that we do have a sustainability office. So that's separate from the education component. They're really looking at the campus and the university overall, right? So they're looking at, we have someone for waste, right? They're actually looking at how the waste system of the whole university is operating. They're also working with the food services. They're looking at dorms. They're looking at even the labs and classrooms, how the buildings are being developed. They even started 2 years ago, actually. So it's been very well established now, but sustainable events certification, right? So sort of telling people on how to reduce waste in your events, how to make them more inclusive, universal access, and all of that. So that's more, that's been funded by, I believe there's a mixed funding with the government as well as the university, but that way we're not just focusing on the teaching, but shaping. We're like 45,000 students, PhDs, and then plus all the faculty and staff, right? The thing that I'm operating in the Faculty of Management, we've started this fellowship on sustainable development goals. It's a fascinating way in which usually business and management people, they're not easy to convince on the topics of sustainability. So what we've done is sort of made a fellowship in which students are doing two things simultaneously. They're working on faculty research projects, and then on the side, they're also attending classes in which they're developing an impact initiative that relates to or that addresses sustainable development goals. Now, this program then attracts students from all different areas in management, and they're working on research projects of professors of all the different areas. So within a year and a half, we've been able to garner attention from all the departments in the Faculty of Management. And we have 40 students 44 students now for the next fellowship cohort, starting in fall. And they'll be there for 2 semesters. So it's a way of sort of getting people from all different areas to sort of provide them something that relates to their interests, but also adding a layer of sustainable development goals onto that.
Thank you so much.
You're
I think that's a very good example of how interest is growing also within universities around this topic, specifically for students, and how universities will, there are like pressures from every side now, but from students specifically, that they see how this will be the most important topic in the next few years, I guess, when the actual COVID leaves us. We'll start talking about again globally about this. So we have like 10 minutes left, and we have a little bit more to share with you. Waldo?
Yeah, and also it would be nice if you feel like you would like to connect with some of the universities involved also in the ClimateLab project. Feel free to reach us anytime. We will be more than happy to connect you with some of the universities, like in Uganda, Kenya. Also here is the Universidad d'Aysén, also in the Chilean Patagonia. So yeah, because I think will be really, I think, valuable for the teachers, but also for some students that they would like maybe to start doing some exchanges program. So just like an idea or a project that we started the last year, also in the framework of building up climate labs around in the educational sector. We started hosting specific teacher trainings for teachers from schools, from typically vocational schools, or teachers from bachelor programs. And we start doing this with the Innovation Agency for Climate Change from the European Union. So they have like a quite kind of concise and well-packed package of tools for kind of integrate the topic of climate change in the curriculum, and we start doing this together with them. And also we hosted the last year the first Young Climaton as a hackathon, right? But for climate action, Young Climaton, the last year in Chile with a bit more than 100 students. So and we are now kind of assessing the possibility of expanding this to the, of course, to the online world as this session, and maybe having the first Young Climaton, the online Young Climaton this year in Latin America, also with the students. So we are, from the ClimateLab perspective, we are kind of shaping this kind of champion team for hosting the climate action from the university side, but also from the student side. We are igniting them through the climatons and also the specific tools for the curriculum. So it's kind of a two-side approach in a way. And yeah, just an idea we have now, and we are talking with ClimateKick, just as a final comment. We are developing a new project also for this time where we cannot host like physical events for a while, of creating like a competition for future storytelling, future stories about climate change among the students involved in the climate labs. So the idea is to take the students of these universities we have already in the consortium and promote, propose them in a way some question about the future, and so they can start creating stories about like a good future or like a not that good future that they are seeing right now, and then to put all that together for the next COP26 that maybe gonna happen the next year, as we know now. And yeah, and that's it. That's an idea that we are shaping now. Also, in a way of transit this time and don't make this topic like less important in this time, and also to sustain and also to help the teams of the climate labs to transit better in this coronavirus time. Yeah. I don't know, Gabi, you have any comment about that? I think, yeah.
No, that's what we've been doing with social innovation and climate action. And now from 2811 with the inspiration in Latin America and how different communities have also tackled climate change. It's not something that we need to look too much within universities, but if we look a little bit into the communities, the indigenous communities and other communities, we can learn a lot from. So that's what we're trying to do, bring these knowledges together to see what comes from it. And it just, I think, to end, we're almost on time. We would like to ask you, what is your I always say but this, I'm going to say it wrong right now. Your takeout, it's not your takeout, it's your
takeaway.
Takeaway.
Yeah.
I always say it wrong. What is your takeaway from the session? How do you feel about this? And if you have any final comments, crises, or points of contact that you think we could bring together, the mic is open. Correct?
I would just say that I think those of us who live in the North owe those of you who live in the South a big apology. And I think that needs to be part of our narrative, and it needs to be part of the narrative of our students. The tension between defining some of these problems as overconsumption versus overpopulation hasn't been productive. I love the fact that we can all agree that climate has been destructive rather universally. But I think there's some time for humility and appreciating the learnings that you've offered us from a place many of us seldom visit. Thank you for that.
Thank you, really appreciate it. Any other final comments?
Yeah, as a final comment from my side, I think, I'm also a bit reflecting to the last comment. I think also when we put the students together from different parts of the world, and they see like how different maybe they are, how different like the territories are, but they see also how similar they are, like they're human anyway, that it's not that they found the kind of fault that we have in this kind of situation now. I think that's really interesting. We are seeing more kind of divisions among the teachers, maybe typically, but when we see the students together, they just play, right? They just enjoy the moment together. So I think that's just something good that we have seen, and it opens also, I think, a lot the opportunity also for continue doing things in that field. And thank you all of you for being in this session. If you want to connect with any of the universities here, you can reach us anytime. We are also hosting the Commons program for Latin America, the official certificate on social innovation for universities also from Ashoka U. And really thank you for being today in the session. Thank you, Jess, also for helping us today.
And Gabby, it's just amazing what you guys have been able to do and how many different institutions you've been able to engage. And thank you for sharing that with us. And to everyone who came and spent their evening here, thanks for doing that. And if you're not already in the Slack group, we can kind of keep connecting on that. And I'll drop the link in for the notes. And yeah, just a huge, huge amount of gratitude. So thanks so much, everybody. And we'll see you in another session very soon.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing with us this afternoon in your busy day. Thank you.
Midnight for Berlin. But.
Midnight in Berlin. Yes, thank you, Waldo, for keeping awake.
Yeah, enjoy your afternoon. Bye.
Have a great evening.